Добър ден на всички.
Good afternoon to all. Thank you for the possibility to address the conference of UMD on the subject my colleagues and I chose, the national and state formation of Republic of Macedonia, historical overview on the influence of Bulgaria and Greece upon the Macedonian question until present. Upon the Macedonian question until present. This paper created is more oriented on illustrating what happened during Balkan Wars and what are its consequences today, and how today the same things happen today, reflected in Bulgarian and Greece policy. In 1912, 1913, Albania did not exist as a country. Historically seen, I'm not a historian, so I cannot just elaborate these facts. My colleague will do that in her paper. In the creation of our own state and national development in the second half of the 20th century, they showed their interest for allocation of the rest of the Ottoman units in the rest of the Balkans, and the whole system, Ottoman system was. It is interesting. I'd like to say, related to today's events, the support they asked from international community, that is European forces at that time, concerning the dominant ethnic group in Macedonia. We can say that in the Balkans there was a creation of religious identities and national identities. At that time, the church played, at the end of the 19th century and beginning of 12th century, the church played a great role in creation of this identity. Today, this is a contemporary pragmatic approach, especially concerning Bulgaria and Greece, which are indicators, relevant factor, which we want to elaborate in this paper. They did this, and they have modified their behavior according to their position in the international community. That is the power they can transfer and generate from their membership in international organizations. A short historical overview shows that the Macedonian issue is part of the Great Eastern issue, and that after the Berlin Congress, the representatives of the Great Forces thought that the region had a very mixed ethnic composition with predominantly Greek population, and then since the beginning of the state formation of Bulgaria, Greece and Serbia, the Macedonian question in their relations represented the real trouble, the source of troubles, and which in 1918 will come out to surface. With the establishment of the Macedonian Revolutionary Organization in 1893 in Thessaloniki, the basic goals were established of the organization, in which Macedonia is two Macedonians. These are first autonomous organized actions of Macedonians. Of course, Bulgaria and Greece, referring back to history, Bulgaria thought that they should be dominant in deciding about Macedonia, and they wanted to integrate the Macedonian identity and say that they are Bulgarians, and they directly used the exarchy in this. The Greeks did the same. They used influence, and they were more influential in the southern part of Macedonia. The role of the great European forces, the same happens Today also, with the great European forces, the influence of Great Britain, with the Maastricht reforms, the program of 21st September 1903, as a result of the Ilinden uprising, the influence of the Russian Tsar Nikolai II and Austrian-Hungarian Imperator Franz Joseph, the idea of Great Britain was exceptional, radical turn of British policy towards Macedonia, where they speak of autonomous Macedonia, but too late in 1908 with the young Turkish revolution and all the tries for Macedonian reforms. Now it's too late. And as a result of all this that happened, xenophobic games with the Macedonian population after the end of the Balkans Wars and the First World War, that is the genocidal actions against Macedonians, and has consequences even today in our relations with Greece. It's interesting, a moment where occupied territories of Macedonia are not called Macedonia but Northern Greece. This idea of Greece to go back to the name Macedonia is of latest date, exclusively pragmatical interest in contemporary politics and Greece's relation to Macedonia, and I call this schizophrenic behavior of contemporary Greece, which creates its second identity, tries to run a battle against us concerning identity, where actually lies the problem of our relations with Greece. The Macedonian retrospective for the creation of the nation and the state cannot be experientially connected to what the theory models for nation creation say. The contemporary conditions in which a country should persist ask for contemporary approach and understanding approaches and attitudes of different countries. This is, above all, experiential and real political tendency, and this tendency, unfortunately, is strongly expressed by Greece and Bulgaria. From that point of view, we can say that Greece has a strong direction against the physical structure of the territory and clear artificial layout of the Greece between Greece and Macedonia. Especially in the border regions where there is mixed population, where there are regions where Macedonians live in Greece, for example, Aegean part of Macedonia. It's irritating. This is a burst of nationalistic and territorial pretensions, not by us. It is a change of identity and trying Greece to present Macedonians as Greece population with a certain specific identity. So they go into schizophrenic game where besides Hellenistic identity which they created with the establishment of their state at the end of 19th century, now this is a new game of theirs. This balance of what is a nation and how can a nation have two identities, Hellenic and Macedonian. The Aristotle University, even we had conflicts with the academia in Greece when they wanted to present themselves as Hellenes and as Macedonians at the same time. But I guess it's again a problem of the pragmatics. Bulgaria is directed towards political anthropology. Bulgaria wants to influence Macedonian cultural and linguistic identity. I can say that idea that Bulgaria wants to present as the story that Macedonia is part of Bulgaria, I would ask a question. Nations are formed and they change. It's a natural process, but in which period can they define that? And if we go along their logic, a scientific way of well, then let's all go back to Adam and Eve and forget about ethnicity totally. About contemporary influences, pragmatic political relations by Greece can be seen as try to negate statehood. I'm a peace and development PhD. I'd like to say we do not have a dispute with Greece. We have a long historic conflict process with deep relations. That is identification that we should put on table in a conflict process with Greece, which is not violent still, and was in history violent. Influential are emotions, experiences, historic experience, negative experiences. Also influential are attitudes, emotions, and fears. And when we talk about fears, I will not talk about our fears. Our fears, generally as Macedonians, have been overcome. As opposed to 1913, we have a state now. And if we couldn't participate in Bucharest Treaty 1913 as a state to represent our own interests, now, no matter how much we are not members of NATO and EU, we are internationally recognized country which participates in the international community, and we are an international entity. Fears of Greece. My attitude is that Greece will have troubles getting away with this. They will not allow solution, because if they do, they will have to recognize Macedonian nation identity. And the most scary for them is they will have to admit the genocide they committed against Macedonians. And will have to admit that in front of themselves and in front of Europe, and they are afraid that what they have to give back. And I don't speak here about the return of the displacement of borders. That's not applicable in today's life, but paying back the damage they did to all Macedonians in the past. It's a psychological problem, and we cannot overcome their psychological problem. The second aspect is the Europe influence, which we'll have to admit, yes, we did wrong to you Macedonians, and that's very difficult for them. From Bulgarian point of view, basic question is not statehood and the name of the state. We saw that 1992. The then Prime Minister, recognized our constitutional name, but in context of creation of Macedonian nation, and the part which they use concerning the Pyrenean part of Macedonia, that is the return of the use of the Macedonia and the Macedonian question in practical political goals today, the instruments of international community. Key aspect which influences today's process, we cannot manage this by ourselves. This conflict process is not managed by us. It's characteristic about the use of instruments Greece uses, and using their membership in NATO and EU. Greece, I did a research in institutions in Macedonia, a few key institutions including Ministry of Foreign Policy. I'm sorry, the ministry is now not here today. Oh yeah, we have a representative of the Ministry of Foreign Policy. We can see the capacity of our institutions, how they receive, what information, knowledge they have, how Greece uses and does Greece use their legal possibilities in EU, whether Republic of Greece in their relation with the Republic of Macedonia uses their legal possibilities in EU in accordance to the Lisbon Treaty. The respondents from Macedonian institutions answered yes, 15%, now 28%, I'm not sure, 29%. So people are not aware that Greece uses all possible means, legal means of European institutions in the relations with or against Macedonia. So we should raise awareness of our public administration, of what Greece applies and what instruments they use and what we can use. In conclusion, a question we need to answer in a scientific and pragmatic way, and that is how to survive as a nation and state in this environment, because we did not cover Albania and Serbia, but pragmatic. I don't know if anyone has ever asked what would happen if Greece agrees that we enter NATO. Maybe we may get blackmail from Albania. This is not a rhetoric question, but a very serious one, which will tackle and will tackle all generations. Questions are open and wait to be answered in a pragmatic political approach. Through the perspective of scientific approach, we need to establish relaxed relations with all neighbors in order to influence psychologically that we are not danger to them, but just as them we look for our place under the sun and our rights. In conclusion, I think the Republic of Macedonia must go back to the global political arena through its membership in NATO and EU and become global political actor, just as Slovenia, Slovakia, and other countries have become global political actors. Thank you very much.
Може да го оставам, ако не
Thank you, Dr. Andonov, for the presentation. Are there any questions? Briefly, Zoran Milenkov, what's the year when Greece renamed the northern region in Greece from northern Greece to another name? When and why is that idea born to make that step on their behalf? With the occupation of the Macedonian territories, Greece never called them Macedonia, they called them Northern Greece. There was even one ministry for the northern areas as a particular separate administrative unit with separate management and regime and governance in order not to provide the genocide but cultural sites, a kind of a cultural diminishing of the Macedonian population there. So when it comes to the Macedonian majority in Greece, Yugoslavia froze every relation with Greece when it comes to the issues and matters regarding the Macedonian minority in the northern Greece. Greece undertook several big steps in reorganizing back then northern areas, and then she started calling them Area Macedonia, and then she tried to refer to the Macedonian identity that is attempting to introduce into the conflict. Unlike us, I think that Greece was exceptionally aware, because she activated the conflict process with the activation of the name issue, and she was quite aware of what she wanted to achieve, and that is why she activated the story of a double identity of the Greeks, Macedonian and Hellenic identities, and merging them historically into one in order to achieve an advantage or to have leverage over us into the negotiation process, stating that yes, we have the right to call ourselves Macedonians, not you. And that's the game of Greece as blocking the name issue. It's not only whether we are going to be named as Upper Macedonia or Northern Macedonia. The important thing is how the church, how the language, how the culture, how the identity issues are going to be named. Are there any questions? I am Petra Kazior from Lerin, Florina. I just want you to know how the Greeks manipulate our Macedonian heritage. For us living in Greece, we are not Macedonians. We can be either Bulgarians, we can be Slavs, or we can be Slavo-Macedonians, Slavophones, and so on. However, for the Greeks living in Macedonia, they are Macedonians, even though they are from Greece, but still they live in Macedonia. Either if they have come maybe from Turkey, legally they are Macedonians, but we are not Macedonians. That's the game. Thank you. Thanks for the comment. I think that this fully corresponds with what I said, that the game is as such, so annihilation of the nation, not the name. The name is not an issue. It's not a key issue of the conflict process. Thank you.